Stop the presses. I've got some heartbreaking news straight from the front of the New York Times. Wait for it. The Muslim Brotherhood is apparently not a feminist organization. They ain't too keen on the whole women's equality business. Yeah, a little late to the party, guys. The story from last Thursday's headline, Muslim Brotherhood's statement on women stirs liberals' fears. The Muslim Brotherhood took power in Egypt last year, and their prominent member, Mohamed Morsi, is the president. What's the latest problem? Well, the United Nations wants member states to sign an agreement in support of women's rights. They think the UN is too big government. Well, okay, in some respects I kind of agree there, but the Times kind of glossed over just how nuts the Brotherhood's opposition is. They released 10 reasons why this was bad. Here's some excerpts. Number 9, removing the authority of divorce from husbands and placing it in the hands of judges and sharing all property after divorce. They don't want that. And 10, canceling the need for a husband's consent in matters like travel, work, or use of contraception. They complain that these are destructive tools meant to undermine the family as an important institution. They would subvert the entire society and drag it to pre-Islamic ignorancy, which is, I guess, the state I'm in right now. That's pretty crazy. I'm surprised it hasn't gotten more press. We know we should have seen this coming, but, well, just how much so? And should we expect more of this in the future? All right, joining us now from the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, Jonathan Schanzer. Jonathan, thanks for joining us there. So is the New York Times late to the party? I mean, this seems kind of du jour to me.
Well, they're a little late to the party, but this sort of top 10 list that the Brotherhood put out that looks like a sort of a sick takeoff of David Letterman was a shocker. I think it really did jolt the international community. There was a sense here that we would want to give the Muslim Brotherhood the benefit of the doubt. Sure, they were destroying their country economically. Sure, they were pulling it apart politically. But nobody really thought that they would be sort of the Taliban light, which is what I think this statement really did reveal.
Now, have they not always had some degree of Sharia compliance, though, in what they've wanted to see, even before they were in power?
Well, sure. If you look at the Muslim Brotherhood and you look at its founding principles, of course, they would like to see governance by Sharia. That was not necessarily the way that they went about trying to structure their government in Egypt, although a lot of the laws that were holdovers from the Mubarak era did have elements of Sharia, as is the case in many places around the Arab world. That said, I thought the Brotherhood has been really slow playing this since coming to power. They've not been pushing this social agenda. But this one, I mean, they really came out of the gate in ways that I think, again, shocked a lot of people. But again, it should not have been shocking. We know what the Brotherhood stands for. If you look at their founding principles, if you look at the documents, you look at what some of the leading lights have written over the years, this should come as no surprise at all. This is the cornerstone of Islamism. It is these extremely conservative social views that make a lot of people in the West extremely uncomfortable.
No, Jonathan, I was covering the uprising in Mali, and as you know, it went from being a people's rebellion to Islamist sects took it over, and then the people rebelled against them. Even though it's a Muslim country, they didn't want this type of Sharia. Now, is it the same on the ground in Egypt in terms of the support from the general people?
Absolutely. I mean, really what we're seeing right now, we've got a couple things at play with the current, I mean, I would say that this is probably the second or third revolution that's taken place since Mubarak fell. What you have is what we call anti-Islamists or non-Islamists. And this could be Muslims of any stripe, this could be Copts, it could be really anybody, but they are all out in the streets right now. They're deeply troubled by the direction that the Morsi government has been taking Egypt, and so that's part of it. But the other part of it is just economics. There are no tourists. Nobody wants to invest in the country because of the instability, and so it's for that reason as well that people are out in the streets. I don't believe that this one statement about women is what's driving it, but it is certainly one of the factors that is really adding to the unrest that we're seeing right now in Egypt.
Jonathan, I remember during the Arab Spring, a lot of people in the West took the narrative to be just a regular wellspring of people demanding liberty in the sense that we might think of Western liberties. And we thought, oh, well, they're using Twitter to get their message out. That must mean they're exactly like us. In what way, you know, looking at these incidents we're seeing now, in what way is that true? And in what ways were we just misinterpreting what the populace wanted on the ground?
Well, I mean, I would have to say this, that in the beginning of the revolution, right after that things went south in Tunisia, after Mohamed Bouazizi set himself on fire, and then things spread to Egypt. Yes, without a doubt, Twitter was driving the conversation, and I remember being on Twitter and watching it unfold and thinking how wonderful it was that liberals were able to share their thoughts in English or in Arabic on Twitter, and that we were able to watch these things in real time. And one got the sense that that was really sort of the center, right? The epicenter of this was social media. What we found afterwards was that despite the fact that we had a lot of these people who were out in Tahrir Square and calling for the end of the Mubarak regime, what you had was a next generation, a next level of protesters and activists, and now those were the Muslim Brotherhood. And they came out afterwards and they took over the revolution that was started by the liberals. And that's what we're seeing today. The question now becomes, can the non-Islamists, the anti-Islamists, can they come together? Can they form some sort of a new coalition that can overtake the Brotherhood? This will be the deciding factor if there is to be yet another phase in this Egyptian revolution.
All right, Jonathan, thanks so much for joining us. I'm sure we'll check in with you again on this matter.
My pleasure.
Jonathan Schanzer is joining us from the Foundation for Defense of Democracy. Send me your